This does not mean that the suffering has ended, however. There are still hundreds of thousands of people that are injured, who need surgery, who need evacuation. There are still displaced people, people without homes, without jobs. Gaza needs to be rebuilt.
I think Gaza probably required more than 10 years to return to where it was, if there was enough resources allocated to Gaza for the people to start building their own life.
New voices and new video into us this hour as we look here at trucks with humanitarian aid waiting on the Egyptian side of the border with Gaza. The first phase of the ceasefire agreement calls for a quick increase in relief shipments. The final phase of the deal involves the reconstruction of Gaza. So humanitarian response very much central to every aspect of this ceasefire agreement. And we want to bring you more on the issue of aid this morning with Diana Sarosi, who's the director of policy and campaigns at Oxfam Canada, and she's joining us from Gatineau, Quebec. Diana, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know that you've been speaking to your Oxfam colleagues on the ground in the region. What is the latest that you're hearing from them this morning in terms of both new information, maybe, and new reaction to the deal?
Yes, it's definitely a very emotional time for our colleagues in Gaza. On the one hand, there's this immense relief that hopefully finally this nightmare is over. But on the other hand, with things stalling around the agreement, that optimism is very cautious. And everybody's really hoping that this will finally be the moment that we are getting to a permanent ceasefire.
That's so interesting. So a jubilation, but still a hesitation, because as we've been reporting, this still has not been approved by the Israeli cabinet. So there's still a bit of a wait involved. If it does take effect, as it's supposed to on Sunday, as I mentioned, aid is a central part, a big surge in aid. So 600 truckloads of aid a day into Gaza, 50 of those involving fuel, and a lot of it, half of it going to the north, where there's a real risk of famine. So those are the terms. What will Oxfam's contribution to that? Do you have an understanding at this point of what your part will be in terms of delivering that?
Yeah, so we're very much focused on water and sanitation. And so that's an area that has seen vast destruction in Gaza. We've heard over the last month of people basically living in sewage, not having access to clean water. So that is going to be a huge challenge. But I also want to highlight, 600 trucks a day is about what it was before the war began. And that, we had an infrastructure in place that made that possible. But everything inside Gaza is destroyed. The roads are destroyed, the warehouses are destroyed. So it's going to take a long time until we get to that level of capacity.
I was going to ask you about that. We have live pictures as well. I mean, obviously we're looking at video, but we have live pictures of Khan Yunis, for example, and the tent, the encampments. But the destruction within Gaza is so complete at this point. I was thinking that must be the biggest challenge in terms of delivering that aid. Is that the correct assessment? Just there is no infrastructure left.
Exactly. There's just not much left inside. There are no trucks, there are no roads, so it's going to be a real challenge. And the other aspect is the ceasefire agreement doesn't speak to the role of UNRWA, which has been banned by Israel. And UNRWA played such a central role in the delivery of aid, with having hundreds of employees who were moving things inside Gaza. So with the role of UNRWA still being very uncertain, that is also going to be a huge barrier to accelerating humanitarian aid inside Gaza.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask you about that specifically in case everyone is not aware. By the end of this month, this will be in effect. Israel has banned UNRWA, which is the main UN agency responsible for delivering aid to Palestinian refugees, and it's not allowed to operate within Israel or occupied East Jerusalem. So that means it's effectively not able to operate in Gaza. So if they were doing the lion's share of the aid provision, how will agencies like yours make up that slack? Is that even possible?
Yeah, that is a challenge that we're really concerned about. Obviously, there are other UN agencies who are trying to step in. but nobody had the footprint that UNRWA had. And just the coordination that is involved in this level of, humanitarian aid is incredible. So many agencies have to work together to make this happen. And so, as I said, it will take a long time until we get to that capacity.
So still questions, still uncertainty. But I'm wondering, Diana, if you can speak to hope. Is there hope left? What is that hope for Gaza for you now?
I think there's a lot of hope, and we saw it in the streets yesterday, right? Gazans were celebrating out on the streets while airstrikes increased behind them, right? And we saw more deaths overnight. So yeah, the mood is definitely celebratory, but the problem also is we need to address the root causes of this violence, right? And that's the illegal occupation, that's the arbitrary detention of Palestinians, that's the growing settlements into Palestinian land. As long as those are not addressed, it's going to be hard to consider this the end of the war.
And leading to a lasting peace. The questions remain. Thank you so much, Diana. I really appreciate it from Oxfam's perspective. And as I said, the aid part, the equation in this is still so key as we look to Sunday and this taking effect. Diana Sarosi from Gatineau, thank you again.
Thank you.